Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
Mhm.
All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight. And tonight is Marriage Fit Friday.
Yeah.
So we'd like to give our topic in the category of maintaining families and relationships. That's kind of like every night, but we just put emphasis on that on Friday nights because it sounds good. Marriage Fit Friday. And so tonight's topic is single parenthood and the impact on marriage.
And in particular, our spin on how this is going to be about marriage fit is preparing and helping equipping those who come up in single parent households with how they can actually prepare themselves for marriage and, still overcome a challenge. But in particular, this is a little different tonight because this topic wasn't brought to our attention over a question per se, but more so of something that we saw, and it's a video. So we're going to share this video tonight. Of course, Instagram viewers, this is always the nice time when you can join us on YouTube if you want to see it, but it's a quick little clip and you will be able to hear it. But this is going to help kind of set this stage about single parenthood and, the impact on marriage and future marriages and all of that. So,
Yep. And then not only that, also too, if you all have not seen it, we were on the Daily Wrap Up Cruise show. They've released our marriage and was it finance video. So if you all can please watch that video. We had a good time in New York with them and sat down and talked about marriage. They said that was by far one of the best shows they've ever done. But that's what we're here for. We're here to give you value, and that's what we delivered. So we thank you all, especially all the new followers who come over from watching that video. We appreciate you all and hope that you are getting the value that we like to provide.
Yeah, and this, of course, is a live show. So please, at any moment, if you want to chime on in and talk to us, tell us something, ask a question.
Yeah, you can,
whatever.
a topic, any
Yeah.
questions that you have. We don't mind trying to dissect that for you. We definitely will do that. Take our time with it and let you all know what our opinions are.
Yeah.
So
let's go. This is a big one, though. In particular, one that I was not too thrilled to kind of want to talk about, because it's one of those stigma things where it's not really talked about too much, but the impacts is so real. And it's important for us to have this conversation. But even more important is how from this video, just the implications of even after we knowing that having a two-parent household is very beneficial. And ideally, that's how you want to raise your children. And so to choose deliberately to do otherwise is, wow, it's quite selfish. So we're going to kind of dig into that, but you want to get into this video real quick?
Yep. So that's something new for you all tonight. We have a video. So we don't normally do videos. We've done it in the past, but we're just trying to set the tone. So we're going to go ahead and show this for you.
Black women are availing ourselves to all of the options that our hard work and circumstances currently afford us. And that means that single motherhood by choice is going to be an option that more and more Black women consider and even exercise. So anybody that's in their feelings about that can go ahead and start to process right now. Because Black women that have the privilege to embark upon this expensive and oftentimes lengthy process will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships that do not serve us and that are not in our best interest.
Best interest. I don't know why I cut off, but she's saying that do not serve her, not in her best interest. But scratch all of that before we even get to any of that. Just the the whole deliberate list, the not even considering the child. It's based off of your own wants. Like the child is like an object. Yeah, it's like the child is like an object or like just something. I don't want to. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, you have to expound upon it. So basically what she's saying is that, of course, Black women are, leading in careers. They're leading in their careers or choosing more so careers over relationship. And in doing so, what happens is that you're electing to become a single mother. You're leaving your relationship. She said they're foregoing relationships. She put that so nicely.
And even told how expensive it is. I'm sorry, but
Right.
just to point that out, we're going to dig into all of this because you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a lot of decision making that has to go on. Hopefully, it's done through logic, not emotional decisions that a woman has to consider when she leaves her family.
Yes.
And wants to raise her children on her own. And what we are here to show you the impact of what that means and what it looks like. And you can decide for yourself whether this is something that is positive or negative.
Right.
But overall, we've stated statistics before and what that means for the children. And women who think that they can raise their children into productive people in society often at times will be faced with the statistics and the facts that what was it? Children who raised in single parent households are 20% more likely to end up in an institution. And the institution is more so prison.
Right. All of this, it's a lot that can be processed. And I like that. That's why I smiled that she said that, because yes, let's process this, because what we don't do a lot in society is process things as a whole. It's a lot of, we're just going to tell you this and let you, do it. And a lot of people don't take the time to really sit and think about your choices. And these are deliberate choices. And this kind of the scary thing about it is this isn't new. Like, this isn't the first time I heard this, but to actually see it like on such a larger scale than maybe simple conversation with passing by women, when you're trying to connect and talk to people and you understand situations and stuff, but to see it on such a large scale, like the deliberate choice to do this, it makes me wonder, has it been processed? And if it hasn't, let's do that, because that is really most important, understanding what are the repercussions of said choice, not out of the deliberate selfishness of wanting to like acquire a child or possess, to have a child. Like, it's just something to behold, like it's an object, like, oh, just because of the, like, no, that's not. Children are human beings that have needs, wants, desires, questions. All of that is important to understand before you decide to have kids like that. Yeah. Children deserve to be brought into a world not for the right reasons, not for selfish reasons. Like, I just want to have a kid because I want a mini me, or I want somebody even worse, I want somebody to take care of me when I'm old, because that's what isn't talked about a lot either.
Right.
Often mothers will then, even if go ahead.
It's just selfish all the way around.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to say is that women, you all need to consider relieving your selfishness and leaving that in your past before you decide to have children.
Yeah.
And then take on the role of actually wanting to raise a family with a man who's capable.
Yeah.
Now that's two words there is a man, and they have to be capable of wanting to serve in the relationship. There's multiple dynamics on why women leave relationships, why they leave their families,
and men too.
And what this woman is stating is that women are selfishly electing to do this in relationship. So this is like a hidden agenda that's being played out, and that's the way she explains it, is that women are often at times deciding to do this on their own, and especially after building a career, and leaving their man in the dust, especially if he's not the breadwinner of the family. Why does money have to make you feel empowered? Why does a career have to make you feel empowered?
Like, that's all a kid needs.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also too, like, for her, why is it that women, have to feel as if that is the ultimate accomplishment, and then that everything else comes second?
Right. Exactly.
And I live in an environment where, my job is not my first priority.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
priority when I'm working, of course, but
Right.
I'm able to take leave if my family needs me in all of those aspects. But it's weird in today's society and how, especially I know you all see the YouTube videos and things like that. And we just showed one about how modern women, because they have careers, they're married to their careers. They are loyal to their careers, and then but not so much so to their husbands. So this is what this lady is saying. She's saying that these women are foregoing their marriages. They're leaving their marriages behind to to say that they're committed and loyal to their boss at work. So that is who they are getting married to, pretty much their boss.
Yeah, and not only that, just being able to still take on the aspect of taking on children like it's something light, like it's something. Oh, and then I'm gonna have me a couple
But they're
kids.
not. They're not.
Like,
And
like,
but the the flip side of that is that they're not raising their children either.
No,
They got
exactly.
daycare all day long, or at school all day long, or what have you. Now, I'm not. We're not here to pick on women who tried. We're not here to pick on women who tried. But I'm telling you, these statistics don't look like women are actually trying.
Right.
At all.
The reason why, in particular, I thought this was gonna kind of kick off a conversation where we are going to get into the fact that you don't need to come from a whole family in order to make something great out of your life. It is completely possible, and even better, if you work on the things that we're going to go into, you're going to be able to overcome this challenge. It's not if you're a child or an adult who had grown up in a single parent household and didn't become equipped with what you needed to succeed in a successful relationship. We'll go over all of that. But in particular, just the simple fact that we know the statistics of two-parent households and the opportunity of, in general, just having a mother and a father and being able to raise a child and how much that benefits a child in particular. And we just know that, like, as a general consensus in society. And so the fact when you're faced with evidence and you still choose otherwise selfishly out of your own desires is just beyond me. And maybe it's because it has not been processed. Like this lady wants to just throw out, let's y'all process that. Okay, let's do that, because it don't sound like you did too much, like to really sit down and break it down and what that looks like.
On here's the thing too. I mean, do she care?
Right.
Do these women actually care?
To
I
process
don't think so.
it. Right.
I don't think so. I mean, they only want what they want.
Right.
They want what they want.
Right.
But don't care. I mean, and you can't make people care. That's the whole dynamic of it. So
you can't.
I mean, that's downright evil if you ask me.
You can't. But that's okay. So let's go into the expensive part. So one of the first things she so passionately pointed out was that this was an expensive and quite lengthy process. Let's not forget that was said. So if you do choose to bring up a child in a single parent household, not only are you choosing to take on the financial responsibility that one of yourself, as you should, be able to set yourself up and for retirement, because you're a single person. You ain't got no spouse or nothing like that. I hope you have your 1.5 million toasty away, so that you can retire. And it's not your kids that's going to be taking care of you, because then it's a whole nother story. But
average people
don't do that.
Don't have that.
Exactly. So that's one of the first requirements that you need to have is that 1.5. So really consider that before you have even started this process.
Or either be on pace to retire with.
No, you need to
1.5.
No, if you're going to bring in kids, you're going to bring in kids, like the active choice of bringing in kids, and you can't even take care of yourself. I just feel like in the sense of if you're going to take on, yes, I do. Because if you're going to take on the aspect of children, I feel for the kids. Because that's a whole nother financial load. One, in vitro is expensive. Let's get into the other parts of it.
I wasn't talking about in vitro.
But that's how you get pregnant without a man. You got to go to the sperm bank.
No, that is not true. This is how women get pregnant without a man. They sleep with a man, and then they leave.
Part.
And then they leave that man, and then they tell them they're going to go put them on child support.
Oh, that's the worst part of it.
That's on average. In vitro is for those exceptional people, exceptional women who actually make over I don't know, $70,000 or whatever the case may
Right.
be. So on
But that's still
average,
crazy. Like,
yeah, but
that process is expensive.
yeah, it is. But on average, women don't normally do things like that. So we're talking to the average women
But
out here.
yeah, and I just wanted to bring that up. So average women don't do this. If you don't have this expensive money, like this woman has pointed out, she pointed it out. She said it's expensive. If you ain't got it, don't do this. You already setting yourself up for failure. What are you doing it for? You ain't got the money.
Well, I mean, another,
Like,
a caveat to that also too are women who were in marriages and that didn't work on the marriage. And a lot of people
yeah,
don't
but
know
that's
this
not
or refuse to
that's not a
believe it.
single mother. But that is how
Yeah,
you
they
get
become
in.
a single mother. Yeah, because
Yeah,
they leave their marriages. On
yeah,
average,
yeah,
women initiate divorce by
yeah,
80%. 80% of divorces that
yeah.
occur are initiated by women,
That is true.
mostly at 80%. The other
That
20
is
are
true.
by men.
Yeah,
So that is how women are becoming single parents in this society in the United States, which has the highest rate of
right.
single parents in the world.
Right. And that's the regular schmegular way that women shouldn't be going out here getting pregnant, having reckless, sex and not, that's
I mean, that's
super
another way.
important. Yes, that's super important. And all of these are reasons more than ever to why it's important to marry before you carry, please, because children deserve to be loved unconditionally by two parents who can put their needs first and not so much yourself. Because if you're having children for selfish reasons, likely you're going to be unlikely you're going to be able to give them the love and the support that they need because you're doing it for selfish reasons. If that's the whole reason why you're having a kid, that's not fair to the kid. You're not even placing yourself in the ability to give them what they need. And that's sad. Not only that, children suffer the consequences of being brought into a world of selfish reasons because you choose, like, you just want to have them, or it's an accident. They feel like they were a mistake. A lot of single parents may hold that over their head or whatever the case may be if you're talking about the even worse aspect of it, when you go down a little further. And of course, that all plays a huge part in the mental health of the mother, the mental health of the father. All of that plays a huge part in the upbringing of the child. So, of course, sometimes even too, if you have those single parent relationships where the mother is maybe increasingly wealthy, like maybe this woman, I don't really know anything about her, but if she has money or whatever the case may be, they could feel like, oh, they can't live up to those expectations, a lot like coming from broken homes, like, when that happens because of the pressure, the added amount of pressure, but you're already immersed into that because you're born into a world where it's quite selfish. The whole ideology, the whole reason why you were brought into here was quite selfish. People don't think about the thought and the intention that goes behind why you're creating these children. And that's really, really sad because that does impact the child. It's just really important that I know I kind of digress and I went back on the kids because this is really what does get me passionate, is more so the children and our future generation that is ultimately going to be left behind after we all grow up and stuff. That's just how it go. And you want to be able to shape the world in a positive way based on you giving life into a child who can then go forth and do other positive things because of what you were able to give them. Now, it's quite different than a single family home, maybe like from divorce or something where the parents were able to prepare, or maybe even like widowed, or like, different other situations of even too where there's a supportive community around a mother who just so happened to get pregnant at an early age or whatever the case may be. There are opportunities for the children to advance in life, but it's largely determined by who's around them and the environment that, of course, the environment that the child is in. So we'll get all into that, but that was my slight little rant, because if you're considering to have children, it's super important to think about all the factors that are involved. You don't just do this because of, I don't know, your time running out or whatever the reasons, whatever the selfish reasoning is. It's just so important that you're having children for the right reasons, because that is what's really going to impact that child. Yeah, we can get into some slight statistics though. about the prevalence of single fatherhood, motherhood, and fatherhood. You want to get into that? Yeah. Go ahead. So we can start. Hold on. Insert this.
Yeah, sure. So in 1970, only 15% of children under the age of 18 lived in a single parent household. So by 2022, that number had reached to 23%. So this means that nearly 1 in 4 children in the United States is now living with a single parent.
Yeah.
So there are a number of factors that have contributed to this increasing number. So one is the decline in marriage rates. Of course, we all know that, especially from the 70s or 60s, and until now.
Yeah.
So the percentage of adults who are married has been declining for decades. Every decade it has been declining, and this trend has been particularly pronounced among younger adults. So as the results, there are fewer two-parent households to begin with.
Yeah.
People are marrying later. There are multiple factors that are taken into play here because of that. And then, but you know what? That's not always a bad thing,
Right.
because people are marrying later. You're more prepared. Hopefully, you're more prepared to raise a family. And I'm giving people some grace about this too, because of the economy. The economy has made it so much harder for people to have children.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Right.
Back in the 80s and 70s, you could live off of 55,000 and thrive off of $60,000 a year. That
Right.
was enough. Back then, I've heard housing prices back then, you could buy a house for $25,000 or $35,000. It was ridiculously low.
Yeah.
So things have changed. Times have changed. So the rise in births outside of marriages,
Yeah.
the percentage of births to unmarried women has also been increasing along the
Yeah.
way. And this is particularly true among the African American and Hispanic communities, especially with Hispanic and African American women. So as a result, there are more children being raised by single mothers. Now, I'm not blaming mothers or women, females, or in general. Men, we share a part in this as well. And the due diligence, all of that we own. We own that, and that, often
Is
at
what
times,
we see.
right.
It's what we see now. But that's important to mention, because before we kind of wrote down these statistics, we didn't really have the time to really be able to pull all this up so y'all can see it. But in particular, 64% for African American, I remember. It was like 52% or something like that for Hispanic. And then I think it was like 40. I know Asian was like 41%. And I want to say Caucasian was like 43% or something like that, but I'm not completely for sure. But for it to be like closer to 70% for like just women in general, and this African American woman then adds in the factor of this added choice of choosing to be a single mama just for the heck of wanting to do so. It's like, dude, you're just gonna push that statistic even more, and why? This is something that we need to be, trying to fix and trying to bring down. This isn't something we want to live up to and increase and keep it going. Like, that doesn't make sense. The impact on our children has been crazy, like in particular. So that's just one thing to note in particular. But of course, the rise in divorce rates too. That was another factor.
So those rates have been rising and increasing as well.
Yeah.
What was it? Divorce rates. I think currently in the United States, is it 45%?
Yeah, I think so. Something around there.
Divorce rates are around 45% currently.
Yeah.
And like I said before, initiated 80% by women.
Yeah.
So this means that more children are experiencing the breakup of their parents.
Yeah.
Both parents in the marriage.
Yeah. And the implications of that, like we've all have seen that, and we all understand. We have all heard the prevalence of single parent households have a lot of implications on not only the child's health and well-being, but also they're more likely, of course, to experience poverty. Like you were saying, it is not only harder to really be able to get married and do all those fancy things that people want to do before they get married or whatever the case may be. But then if you go and you have kids beforehand, add in the economy and everything else, it just sets the whole family back. If you, like this lady said, it's an expensive and quite lengthy process. So even if you were to choose, kind of going back on the topic of the women trying to choose to do this, even if you were to choose to be a single parent by choice, you are in a way more likely to experience poverty if you aren't in a financial position to handle this added expense, take on the regular economy and everything else that it requires to live. So it's like,
Well, I
why
mean, they
set
have.
yourself up for that?
Well, I mean, the at least they have Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam will put you
Yeah,
on welfare. That's kind of difficult for single women who are career women.
but how that look when you like retirement? We're talking about retirement age. All right, it looks all Uncle Sam will sell you a dream of how lavish it looks from the age of your time you give birth until like 65 and you retire. And then what? Because your child is gone. So by that time, if you haven't gone and hustled, made all this money, how much what I don't even want to get into like incomes, the average incomes that people make. But in general, like with women, it's African American women in particular, going with this, if we're talking about her in particular saying the choice, you are not 100% equipped to be able to retire yourself easily. So you're going to depend on Uncle Sam to do that. And who's to say Social Security and all that is going to be around during that time? The rise right now of homeless women on the street is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, they are the number one emerging population right now, growing crazy. If y'all can't learn anything from that, looking at just right now, and then you go and plan to do something like this, like you just, I don't know. This is why we processing this, because this is important. Don't just sign up to set yourself up for failure by not paying attention to the long-term implications of what you're trying to do and depending on Uncle Sam to get you out when Uncle Sam ain't getting them out right now. How many single women are on the street right now? That rise, it literally, I seen an article not too long ago about that. The rise is women on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You are the most vulnerable and you're on the street.
Because they're for the streets. I mean, that's the only place. I mean, that's, to keep it real with you. I mean, that's where you end up. So where do we go from?
Ooh, I get frustrated.
Here?
But yeah, it makes you, I hate focusing on the problems. I really want to go to the solution because it's frustrating, but it's important to process this, and really process this for people so they get that. Like, this is what you're signing up for.
I mean, the problem is that they have to care. And I'll take that back there. And it gets deep because they don't. People like this, women like this, they don't care. But there's there's a multifaceted situation when you talk about single parent households. My thing is the women who don't try to fix their marriages or stay in their marriages.
Right.
And because the unwilling participants in the marriage.
Right.
What was the intent on getting married when your vows don't hold up, till death do you part? People, that's the reason why it's very important to get prenuptial agreements. And we talked about this before, that a prenup, you can draft a prenuptial agreement and agree to it so that you both stay in a marriage. You can draft it that well to the penalties that you both have to endure, because if you mess up, will be so damaging that you don't even want to think about messing your marriage up. Mm-hmm. That is a thing. You can do that. And when people think of prenuptial agreements, they don't think of it that way. They think of it like, I'm about to get ran all over and told what to do, and I have no rights. Right. Without realizing that this is something that is negotiated and compromised, and that you don't have to sign it unless you agree to it. Right. And then even if you were under, distress or duress at the time you signed this thing, you can have it revoked. So that is something to keep in mind, that you have options. Your last option should be divorce. The last option. You can get a prenup or a postnuptial agreement. There's counseling. You have mediators. You have people who you can talk to, preferably other married couples, before you have to go into the realm of divorce. And also, too, prenuptial agreements will save you time and money. On average, I read somewhere that today's divorce in the United States is roughly around $75,000 to $65,000, and so therefore, a prenuptial agreement to get one drafted is anywhere between $200 to $2,000, if that. So the cost benefit there for a prenuptial agreement or postnuptial agreement is relevant. It's very relevant.
Yeah, and not only that, vet your spouse though too.
Exactly.
Before all of
Intention.
this, that is why again we do this too, so that y'all get this. Try to get it as closely
anybody.
right.
You need to vet anybody that you come across in today's society, making sure that they're not trying to use you or take things from you, abuse you, or abuse your friendship,
or selfishly get what they want. Like this woman said, "You don't serve me." Right. How uppity, God! Our society is so like. Where's the love? Anyways, the children, of course, that we know, just kind of trying to get into the main reasons and the impacts of single parenthood and how it has, it potentially really can affect your child negatively. And that's not to say that you can't overcome it, because this is important here too. This is a live conversation. So if you do have your own experiences and you come from a single parent home, I think maybe that's why I might be a little passionate about it, because I've come from one, had to overcome all the stuff that you got to overcome if you aren't in the best ideal single parent household situation. So I totally get that. And it's important, again, that you're aware of this. If you are bringing a child up in this situation, or if you need for yourself to be able to overcome some of the things. But potentially you have an increased risk of depression and anxiety. Children from single parent families are more likely to experience depression and anxiety than those children born and within healthy two-parent households. I have to say that because people try to be like, oh, well, whatever. Anyways, this is like due to be like, oh, well, if they can have two parents in the household and it not be, a good thing. But I ain't even talking about that right now. We're talking about a healthy two-parent household, whether you got two healthy parents and it's good and you're thriving. But just in general, it's going to include a lot of extra stress, because for one, if you aren't that wealthy mother who can afford to take on this expensive and lengthy process, I'm gonna keep bringing that up so y'all don't forget. But if you can't afford to do that, then your child is going to more than likely not be able to spend as much time with you, because you are going to also have to work. And because of that, that's a lack of interaction that they're going to get with their mother. And if the father happens to have custody, that's totally, an option, something that happens. But if the lack of the figure within that home is definitely going to impact the child. The financial hardship, if you, again, don't have that money, it's going to impact the child. You kind of hit on the increased risk of behavioral problems. Mm-hmm. That's a given, right?
Right.
We all have seen that and heard about that, especially in particular when it comes to especially if the child's going through the divorce and they're seeing their parent split up and stuff like that. Even more, they have those problems with aggression that they're acting out in school, or delinquency, or substance abuse. Maybe those are some of the things that were carried on into adulthood. We are looking at a lot of people who have come out of single parent households, especially within the African American, the Hispanic communities. That's what we see So because of that, these are some things and the reasons why this is what we're dealing with. You're looking at young boys being raised by mothers who could be possibly selfish or not. Just saying they exist. This woman just shows it exists. But anyways, young boys are brought up in that environment. Young girls are brought up in that environment. Boys in particular, if they don't have their father around, right, they can't be men.
Since you stated that, right? Well, yeah, and women. What I was told, that women can nurture a boy, but they can't raise a man.
Right.
And the single woman in that same aspect, if she's raising a daughter, how can she teach her to find a husband?
Right.
If she herself is single, it doesn't work out that way. So we have this vicious cycle that's going on, and it's increasing. It's not decreasing. It's not getting smaller.
Right.
And those of you who have children out there, with that being said,
There's things you can do.
Understand
Yeah.
understand that this is only intensifying and increasing.
Yeah.
So think about when your children get older, are they able to find someone
Hmm.
willing to understand what the intention of marriage is, and are they committed to the institution of marriage, understanding their roles and why marriage is a benefit, or should they even care to get married?
Right.
That's one thing that's fading away here in America.
Right.
And that's a dangerous game when it comes to your children.
Yep.
That's something that you have to consider and something that you have to think about. I don't even think these people think about this type of stuff.
Right. And this is why we're talking about it, because we are going to give you some tips. If you are growing up or not, if you're raising a child in a single parent household, it's not, the end. In fact, there's a lot of things that you can
It's
do,
not
but
ideal,
it's
but
not. But you have to be deliberate in that. Deliberately looking to help your child succeed in this aspect because you know that they are deficient of it. And you know that.
right.
So
And for
it
those
got to be
single
deliberate.
mothers who choose divorce, not because they tried, but because
Yeah.
they didn't care to try anymore in their marriage, understand that this is the type of heavy lifting that you have to do. You have to own this.
Yeah.
Your goal is to make sure that this child is a positive, productive person in society,
Yeah.
and making sure that they don't have to sit behind bars,
Right.
in any part of their life. So,
And you want them to have, kids and stuff too. You
be
want them to be
viable.
able to have a good relationship and be able to know how to do that. So you got to be able to help them with that. Children from single parent households are also more likely to have low self-esteem. So you have to really be deliberate and affirming into your child, placing them in front of active father figures, mother figures, whatever they need, gender, based on gender, but what they need to be a positive example so that they can thrive and they can grow, because you aren't able to directly offer that environment for them.
Right.
So that's super important that you take the time
true.
to do.
Especially self-confidence.
Yeah.
How is a young boy going to gain self-confidence if he doesn't know what a man looks like, and
Right.
also their role being played out?
And it ain't gonna come from your mama. I don't mean no harm. Your mama can cheer you on all you want, but it's certain things daddy is going to be able to instill. Just being able to see daddy do those things, being able to see that man doing that, it makes all the difference.
All the difference. I see it in my boys'
Yes.
faces. I mean,
All
even in
the
my daughter.
difference. All the
face,
difference.
you
It
know.
does. And even being able to step up to the task of just being a man and being a husband and wanting to do those roles, that can't be downplayed, how much a woman cannot give that to a man to do. That is up for a man to see that, want that for himself, and actively, in a way, imitate what he's seeing so he can be that and do that.
Right. And then on the flip side too, men or young men, if you all have children, you need to be there for your children.
Yes.
Regardless of if you are divorced or not.
Yeah.
Because you're divorced or separated, you need to make sure that you are in the lives of your children.
Try to get
somewhere.
custody, especially if it's your boys.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what this situation. If it's the man is in the wrong and he left his family, then by all means, you need to figure out ways that you need to get back into that family and fix your visitation. If you lost visitation, you need to figure out ways to get in there, because those children your children need you. Don't just settle for not being in their lives and thinking you got a free pass. And if you do, and if you're that type of person, you're not a man. That doesn't make you a man. That's very boyish. And then on that flip side, you're selfish too. So, don't think that we're just beating down, single mothers, because that's not the case. And we know, and I know too, that it takes two. So often at times, good women may run into bad men. But also too, you have to, like my wife said, you got to vet who you get with. Don't just use being lonely as an excuse.
No.
That's a bad way to end up in a situation like this where you're a single mother.
Yeah. Or father. Or father too.
Right.
Men too. Involved with the wrong woman.
Too.
Yeah.
You need vetting women. The appearance and how they look. Young men. A good woman goes beyond her looks. You just can't get with a woman and think that you're going to have a happy family because she looks good. It's about what she talks. It's about what she listens to. It's about what she's, like what she says. It's about how she serves you. That's what it really is. That's what it takes to be. That's what it takes to
Loves
be a
you
wife,
too.
right?
Yeah.
How she serves you. Love,
Yeah.
love is a service. So those are the things that you need to value in women, other than their appearance and what they look like. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't, all that really matters is that they're supporting you. You all are working as a family unit,
Yeah.
and trying to achieve goals. So, let me put that out there for the record, because it's not a woman bashing. We're not trying to woman bash at all. We're trying to raise awareness about single parents and the detriment that is causing on children.
And the mainly the deliberate choice in doing so, and not then deliberately taking up all the responsibility that it means to equip your child then with what they need to be productive in society. All of this can sound good, and wanting to have a child can sound all nice, and your clock could be ticking and all that other stuff. But that in particular is something that has to be not taken lightly and really processed. And that's why we're doing it. So children also, they could have difficulty forming and maintaining relationships. So if you came from a single parent household, that was one thing I definitely recognized off jump, and in particular because I was a single only child. So it was
I didn't even care for relationships, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was just, you try to avoid relationships with people.
Yeah.
With females, especially me.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want a relationship. You seeing you don't know what a healthy one looks like. So why am I going to try to be in one? So that's one of the challenges that you're setting your child up to do, especially if you're coming from a single parent household in particular. Like my wife said, those people who choose to do this.
Yeah.
Selfishly do this.
Right. Just please, just know the difficulties that can come along with it. But we've talked all about that. I really, really, really want to get into the more positive note of all of this, on how you can turn a harder situation into something that can have a positive impact on your life. It's that whole statement of taking lemons and making lemonade. It is totally possible to still overcome growing up in a single family household. It's totally possible to thrive and have a good marriage and have a good relationships and be able to do all of this. But it's going to take a deliberate effort on your part as the person that's going through this and experiencing it. And hopefully your parents have done their part, or if you are a single parent, you're going to do your part in making sure that your child is getting what they need to really learn how to be great people.
Before we go on, we have some comments.
Oh, sorry.
It's on some YouTube comments.
Let me go. Okay, hold on. Let's see what y'all talking about. So, delusional. Oh, what's up? This is so true. This is such a big statement. Oh, darn! It made it so small when I clicked on it.
There you go.
Okay, delusional equals I can raise a child all on my own, making the average income for a single woman. And it doesn't matter if I don't make enough for myself to make it to the end of life through retirement.
Yes.
Exactly. I thought I knew I wasn't the only one to think like, y'all gotta be out y'all rabbit mind. Like, what? Why would you? Like, what is going on?
I mean, because
where's the selfishness of taking care of yourself?
But average women don't think about retirement. That's the thing. Like, I mean, and to be honest with you, especially in a lot of young men and women, don't even think about that either. And and then that's something that's in the back. We don't even think about retirement at all. And that's something that is going to creep up on us, and that's what gets us in the end. That's so true.
Yep. And he also said, but we are not prepared. Exactly. And then he says, a lot of our women were raised to believe that getting married was the uber solution to life's problems, and it's just supposed to be easy. Which most married people will say that's wrong. Exactly.
It's work. Now I can say this: the more that you get into your marriage and you all work your dynamics out, you work out your roles and your functions, it gets easier, it gets better.
Yes.
It gets better, but every day it is work.
It is. Yeah. And also too, if you vet your partner the right way, it does contribute to learning those, things that you got to learn much easier, right? Much easier, because that person is signed up and ready to go with you.
Right.
They're in the fight, because it takes two. And if that person gets on out, then whoever checks out first, and that's it. Because the person checked out, you can't have a relationship. Relationship is two people. Y'all both got to be checked in all the time, on the clock.
Right.
Like,
so death do you part.
Right. Facts. Like that's the benefit of it, that it shouldn't be looked at as a disadvantage, but it is a benefit of being able to have that time all the time to work on being a good person and being with your spouse and enjoying your life together and learning the things you're going to need to learn, which are going to be hard sometimes. But again, vet your spouse. That's why we do this, like to help be able to let people vet their spouse better.
If you need questions, we gave you the blueprint on those too, so you can find that video and watch
another video.
Yeah, if y'all want questions to ask people that you're dating, so to make sure that you're dating with intention, by all means, please. I mean, because those little cornball questions of what's your favorite color and what you like to eat is not doing it.
Right.
Definitely not doing it. It's deeper than that.
Right. Thank you for those comments. Money, marriage, and media.
Yep. Shout outs to you.
Yeah, that's some real truth. Thank you. And that, sometimes we be talking, y'all, so we miss the comments. But I'm so glad you seen that, because that was good. That was so good. But anyways, let's get back on topic a bit. The impact of, single parenthood on children and how they can overcome these challenges and still have successful marriages. Because that's the most important part of all of this.
So this is the children.
Yeah, because that's what really matters. Because regardless, we done got on. Hopefully, we have convinced, regardless of what this lady say, I don't even know her name, but regardless of what this lady says, she said processed it. We processed it. It's expensive. She already pointed that out. So if you don't have the money for that, don't do this. Don't sign up for this. And we already went through all the implications that it's going to impact your child. So if you're not ready to do all of that, don't do that. So hopefully, right, if you haven't had kids, you don't go making this choice. But for the children that are here and the adults from single family households that are here and still want to overcome the challenges from that and have a successful marriage, we're going to dig into how to do that, because we're products of it, living proof right here. And I really think that's why God loves examples and loving to work through families, especially if you go through even those hard situations, right? We have all not had it peachy kinks. Maybe some people have had it peachy, easy life, whatever. I ain't really talking about that right now. But for those who have gone through some things, you know how that trauma can actually make you a better person if you do the work that is required in order for you to come out of that in a way. But let's dig on in. First, developing a strong sense of self-worth. That is super important, especially for children and people who have grown up in a single parent household. We talked about how your low self-esteem is, more likely because of the absence of either that mother or father figure, and then the stress of living in a single parent household. No one who, unless, you are given a wonderful nanny who just fills you up with affirmations and affirms you all day, unless you had that, chances are you weren't as affirmed as much as you needed to. So it's super important that you are taking the time to develop that strong sense of self-worth. And that's really going to go with focusing on your strengths and building yourself up so that you know your accomplishments, you're confident in your ability to succeed as a man and a woman into society. And in particular, the roles that you're ready to play. So if you're a man and you want to be a father and a husband, deliberately placing yourself in the vicinity of successful fathers and husbands that can give you the confidence that you need to then step into such a role and see what it takes. Same thing for a woman. If you want to be a wife, talk to my wives. You want to be in the vicinity of wives, successful wives, not those single women unless you really want to be single. Be in the vicinity of the successful wives and mothers with successful marriages and families so that you can actively see what it's going to take. Wifeconomics.com is a great resource to really equip you and prepare you if this is the choice that you want to make. You want to marry before you carry, as you should. This is the choice that you want to make. Be confident in your ability to do so by equipping yourself with what you need in order to live out your purpose of what you really feel you should be doing. And we all have that call within. Hopefully, if God is within and you listening. Yeah. Next.
Learning how to communicate effectively. So communication is essential for any successful relationship, but it is essentially important for children from single parent families.
Yeah.
These children may have learned to communicate in unhealthy ways, such as through yelling or passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
However, it is more important to them to learn how to communicate effectively by listening to others, expressing their feelings in a healthy way, and resolving conflict peacefully.
Yeah.
And
communication, though, I do want to, if I can say one quick thing, that is huge, in particular when it comes to the dynamic of a man and a woman and marriage and what that looks like, and actively being able to see how a woman conducts and carry herself and respects a man, loves a man, treats a man, talks to a man, and how a man respects a woman, loves a man, loves a woman, and treats her. All of that is important to be able to see that, so that you can understand your communication and how, it's when I look at, just in general, if you grew up with a brother or a sister, right, you're more able to see the differences of how a girl communicates compared to a boy, and how sometimes it's easier to be able to understand how you think a little different, well, a lot different, right, and how you process things a lot differently. And so it's easier to then accept that as fact, right, and not try to, I guess, say, oh, well, that ain't, you got to communicate how I like to communicate, do things how I like to do things. But instead, you're able to understand how to coexist with the opposite gender. And that's important, especially for marriage. Yeah. And then, of course, to all of this goes, not saying that all single parent households have unhealthy communication. This is why it's important for, if you are, in a single family household,
to have effective communication.
Yeah. Super important. Yeah. Tone down with the yelling. Learn how to, don't just let your child see fights. Let them see, resolutions, peaceful resolutions. Let them see how to break down conflicts within, you're not always going to like each other. That is not realistic. You're going to have arguments and stuff, but what does that look like to sit down and say, hey, this is, what it is, and let's come to a resolution, so that then we can peacefully move forward. That's important for a marriage, because then if you are brought up in a single family household where you avoided your feelings, you didn't talk about stuff, you don't know how to work on things, how the heck you gonna get in a marriage when any problem come up and you can't effectively be able to want to do this because you've never had that practice doing that? So it's super important. Please sit down and have your children learn what it means to, effectively break down conflicts and then resolve them in a healthy way. That's important. Yeah.
And then develop healthy relationships with other adults.
Yeah.
So children who are raised, we'll go back.
Single parent families. Yeah.
Okay. Children who are raised in single parent families may not have had the opportunity to develop close relationships with their fathers or other male role models. That's true. However, it is important for them to develop healthy relationships with other adults, such as teachers, coaches, or mentors. These relationships can help them to learn how to interact with adults in a positive way. And they can also provide them with support and guidance. They're able to be coached. They're able to take advice. They're able to listen better. And I think what I've heard this recently, Deion Sanders. So he said that a lot of the guys who play defense, they want the kids who are raised by single parent households because they're more rowdy and they're more
go.
they're go and they're hard. They're just hard up. So you want that type of person who's out there tackling and trying to get the ball, as opposed to people on offense who have to be more organized, have to be more coordinated, have to take direction, have to listen,
and be a team player.
Right. because that's what it takes to move the ball up the field. So is truth. That is truth in life. That is truth in everyday life. And it's harder for children who were raised in single parent households to actually want to take advice from adults.
Yes. Yeah, that is so, so true and super important. Also, seeking professional help if you need it, right? So, in general, if you know that, you're struggling with this and, whatever side you're on, being sure to reach out for that help for yourself as well, because you need a supportive system around you in raising children. And raising children is not supposed to be an independent feat. It never was. Like, it literally goes against biology. Like, you're not supposed to have a baby by yourself. Like, you're not. It's supposed to be two happy, loving parents coming together and creating a child out of love. So just, if whatever side of the coin you are on, and if you just so happen to be in the situation, please get the professional help that could help you develop coping mechanisms and dealing with the stress, dealing with the emotions, dealing with all that comes with it, because it's not an easy task. We want to chalk it up to being strong and all this other stuff, but you got to process things in a healthy way. And sometimes it's going to require some help doing so.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess some other little tips in particular for parents who are, raising children in a single parent household. It's important that, especially if this wasn't deliberate, this wasn't your choice, now's the time where we empathize with you, because this isn't an easy thing to do. So we empathize with that. Be sure to talk to your children about proper family structure. Explain to them why you are a single parent, how your family came to be this way. This will help them to really understand how this whole thing happened, the family history. And it will help them to be, more importantly, less ashamed of what happened and their family structure, because it's that open, that honesty, that transparency, where it's out here. We know. And this is what, we also know could be better, that we want for you.
Right. And also to let them know that it's not their fault.
Yeah.
That's something that I learned growing up, was that it's very important for the child to know that their parents are not together because of them. Yeah. And it never was them. So let them know that that was the doing of the parent who left, and to not take it personally, because it was something that they chose to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for a child to not take that thing personally, but they will understand you if you say that to them as they grow older.
And they'll respect you for your honesty, most importantly, and your transparency, so that they can then learn from you that wisdom to actively want to do something different with their lives. One of the only one interaction that I actually had where a woman had told me herself, oh, well, I could do the whole single mama thing because I came from a single mama and I turned out all right. That's what she said. So like that whole idea that not having, but they never had that conversation. She wasn't really close to her mom though. You get what I'm saying? So to not even have that really conversation of what your mom really is going through, the impact it's really had on her life, how she got there and all of this stuff, but just to see like, oh, well, I'm here and I'm fine. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm here. That is important, because you want your child to learn a good family structure and to be able to want to do this for their child, not because they see you and they say that, oh, I can have a kid and do it too. You should want better for your children. It shouldn't be for selfish reasons. But also, model healthy relationships. So show your children what it means to have a healthy relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Healthy communication and support in their own relationships. So this is that's the reason why you need to express the idea of getting married, so that it can have support. So they have someone who can help support them. This will help them to learn what to look for in a partner. Yeah. And then also build, and also how to build healthy relationships. So how to have a healthy marriage. So also next, encourage your child to develop healthy relationships with other adults.
Yeah.
So this could be, like we talked about before, teachers, mentors, coaches, because especially if that they're missing the void of that parent not no longer in their life. So, I often did that. I actually, I gravitated to, teachers, male teachers, and asked them questions and things like that. So
Yeah.
that is natural.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's just really the reason why we had this conversation was really to encourage all of you, all of our viewers, to really have these conversations and share these experiences with our community, with others, on what single parenthood, if you grew up in a single parenthood childhood or whatever, what that was like for you and how it impacted you, how it impacts your relationships now. Being able to have these conversations will also really help the generations coming up so that they can see and learn. And maybe you were successful coming from that. I'm hoping you were successful coming from that. That gives you even more of I want to say a pressure to go out there and tell other children how they can overcome this situation too, because there are women who are deliberately going to choose, like this woman said, to forego relationships and marriage and have children for selfish reasons. Yeah.
Yep.
So their children can serve them because relationships don't serve them, though.
Yep.
So it's important to talk about that, since those are the conversations that are also going on.
Yep.
People need to know that.
Also, to support single parent families in your communities
Yes.
as well.
Yes, please.
Let them know that they are loved, because that's what it is. A lot of times, these people are not receiving love from somewhere, and I'm talking about real love. Support. Where if they're in the need of clothing, if you could donate clothing to these people. If you see a young mother out there, diapers, donate them food or what have you. If you are able to, make sure that you're able to provide, be a community of support to these people.
Yeah, maybe even in particular in your own little things that you do within the community actively. I always think the whole conversation with Dr. Umar and everybody was like, oh, it's not my responsibility to help with. I get that. It's not. We're not telling you to take on, and being a single mama and date single fathers or mothers or whatever. That's your choice. That's your personal choice. Right. But what we are saying is that if your hobby,
have the time,
if your hobby or your job involves something with kids around and you just so happen to see that this kid has, comes from a single parent, just to show them a little extra attention, just little things like that. You don't have to deliberately go out of your way to do things if it's not in your heart. But if you love coaching football and you know that this young man's coming from a, single parent home, take him under your wing a little bit during that practice time. Go a little harder on him during that practice time to help him, Same thing with women. If you see, these young girls out here not
being misguided.
Yes, exactly. I was just about to say that. Exactly. Help them. Have these conversations. Talk with them. That is super important. And that's really going to help further along our whole community and society as a whole, who has to recover from all of this. So, yeah. Also, research, a lot of the research that we kind of talked about in the beginning, please go out and do this research on your own. Take the time. If you are thinking about wanting to take this whole single parent route, women, research how much it costs. Research. Don't just hop into doing something because it's a trend. Trendy shit can get you killed. Don't do that. Research. Make sure that this is something that is a smart thing to do. Hopefully you've gotten through this video and you see it's probably not. So, just anyways, in general, all of y'all just do your research on the impacts of a lot of things that's going on, how all of this can help us as a society, and more in particular, things that if you are a single parent and you need some help, look for the resources that are available to help you so that you can then better assist your children into becoming productive men and women in society. So reaching out into these groups and, actively doing the things that are going to put them in the position to equip the skills that they need to learn. Again, all of this too is really going to be based off of the mental health of the parent. So if you know that your mental health is not where it needs to be so that you can raise a child, get the help that you need. Mental health should not be downplayed. Men, women, All of us, we need to talk about things. We need to work things out and process them in a healthy way. Get the help that you need so that you're not rubbing off on your child in an unhealthy way. They are the ones that are going to have to really bear the burden and the impact of your behavior if you haven't taken the time to heal yourself before having kids, or, you know, if you recognize it.
Accountability. Take that accountability. So we laid out the blueprint
Yeah.
for the impact of single parenthood
And how to overcome it.
and how to overcome it. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you all for coming out tonight. It's Friday. Yay. We made it to the weekend.
Full house on Instagram. Thank y'all for
we appreciate
joining
you
us.
all.
YouTube,
And also
Facebook.
Yep. And then also to our YouTube followers as well. So, you know, Instagram followers, if you all can also too like and share our YouTube, like and share our videos, we really appreciate you. Also to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, Blueprint family, you all have a wonderful weekend. Peace.
Yay.